Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's episode, I want to take you guys back into Dauphiné, and I want to be the director sportifs, or one of the director sportifs there at Visma Bike, now that Dauphiné has finished. Because normally when Dauphiné finishes with 3 weeks before the Tour de France, if you're Visma Bike, everybody's going to get together. So all the director sportifs are going to get together and they're going to discuss what happened at Dauphiné because it's so close to the Tour de France. Now, a lot of times they'll finish bike races, and I'm sure they get together and discuss tactics of what happened, what went wrong, what could go better, especially if there was a bad stage throughout one of the races in the early part of the season. But here at Dauphiné, especially 3 weeks before the Tour de France, Visma Bike, if they're not getting together, well, then you know they're knuckleheads. So we can assume they're not complete knuckleheads. They're probably getting together, and they want to talk about the 8 stages that just finished at Dauphiné in 2025. So if I'm one of the director sportifs, and they say, Chris, put your hand up. Put my hand up. What do you think about about the race there at Dauphiné? What do you think about those 8 days of racing? I'd say we all look like knuckleheads. I'd pinpoint at least 3 of the stages. Stage 1, I'd pinpoint stage 6, and I'd pinpoint stage 7 as being nightmare tactically for, of course, the whole team. You go, okay, Chris, what do you mean? Well, I look at stage 1. Remember when Jonas Vingegaard was attacking at the finish of that stage? Well, just before he's attacking, Jorgensen's throwing in attacks and following attacks, and then Jonas Vingegaard throws in attack just under 6 kilometers to go. I like the attack. I just don't like what he did afterwards. And why I like the attack is because you have Ben Toulet, Sepp Kuss has got to be somewhere near the picture, and of course Jorgensen's been following attacks already, and Ben Toulet's looked pretty spectacular on stage 1 at the finish going up the climb there. So when those 2 guys are attacking, Ben Toulet and Jorgensen attacking and following attacks, when Jonas throws in attack, I love throwing in the attack. It brings out Tadej Pogačar out of the peloton, but you do not pull with Tadej Pogačar. You do not pull with Remco Evenepoel, and you do not pull with Mathieu van der Poel. Jonas Vingegaard said after that stage when he lost to Tadej Pogačar, he even admitted that he was surprised that he got second on the stage and only lost 4 seconds. If you were surprised that you got second on the stage and only lost 4 seconds, it was a knucklehead move, no doubt about it. And it was one that we have never seen from Jonas Vingegaard. I bring you into Tour de France stages when we're talking about early when they were going through the Basque country, and we saw stage 1 where Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard were lighting each other up, but then Jonas would not work with Tadej Pogačar over the top. Simon Yates, the 2 twin brothers, went up the road, and Adam Yates won the stage and put himself in the race leader's jersey because Jonas would not work with Tadej Pogačar. Tactically, fantastic move. No doubt about that. You do not want to work. The very next stage, when we're going up Jaskibel, Poggi gets away. Jonas Vingegaard gets away. They drop down Jaskibel as they're coming into the Basque country proper there of San Sebastian, and Jonas will not work with Poggi. The group gets caught, and we see them come to the finish. Poggi gains some seconds and time bonuses, but does not get to win the stage because Jonas Vingegaard did not go to the finish of that stage 2 of that year's Tour de France and lose time bonuses. We go into Paris-Nice, years past. Jonas Vingegaard, Tadej Pogačar. Jonas Vingegaard would not work with Tadej Pogačar because he doesn't want to give us time bonuses. Now on stage 1, you're going to work with Tadej Pogačar, the number 1 ranked rider in the world. Remco Evenepoel and Mathieu van der Poel is in that front group, and you want to work? Jonas, what happened to your mind? Did you lose your ever-living mind tactically? Remember on stage 9 of the Gravel Stones last year in 2024 Tour de France when Remco Evenepoel said, Jonas doesn't have big balls. I sat up here on Beyond the Coverage and I defended Jonas Vingegaard and said tactically he was the only one that knew how to race his bike. Now we start the 25 Dauphiné on stage 1 and I'm a director sportif for Visma Bike after it's finished. I'm saying, Jonas, what happened? Did you lose your ever-living mind to go up the road with Tadej Pogačar, Primož Roglič, and Mathieu van der Poel? That is a ridiculous tactic. You have almost no chance of winning. And like he said in his interview, I'll tell you right here on Beyond the Coverage that he was lucky to get second and only lose 4 seconds to Tadej Pogačar. And that only happened because Remco Evenepoel jumped early and because Mathieu van der Poel jumped at 290 meters to go on that stage 1. Okay, what could have happened on the stage 1? So I'm getting asked more questions from the directors there, the other directors of my Visma Bike team, while I'm sitting there at the table. And they say, Chris, how would you have played it? I said, I have Jonas attack, no doubt about it. I love that move. It draws out Tadej Pogačar, and it wears his legs out a little bit. He had already covered moves from Jorgensen and other attacks going up the last climb there. Now, Jonas throws in attack. Tadej Pogačar follows it. Now his legs are getting tired. You sit up, you go back to the group, and Jorgensen could possibly go up the road. Ben Tulip can possibly go up the road. I don't remember where Sepp Kuss was, but I know he's on general classification still after stage 1, so he must have been somewhere there. So maybe Sepp Kuss can go up the road. But Jorgensen was looking amazing on stage 1, and Ben Tulip was looking exceptional and probably hitting way above his pay grade there on stage 1 of Dauphiné. So maybe, guess what? Jorgensen goes up the road. Maybe Ben Tulip goes up the road and they gain some time and possibly they win the stage, or they get themselves in the race leader's jersey, or you just put time on Tadej Pogačar and Remco Evenepoel. So the attack from Jonas was good. The move afterwards of pulling with Tadej Pogačar was a knucklehead move, and I already described that in fine detail. Now we fast forward into stage 4 in the individual time trial. 2 is a sprint, 3 break got away, 4 we go into individual time trial. So 2 and 3, Visma Lease Bike can't do anything except for just follow the moves, tactically sound on those stages. Stage 4, the individual time trial. Tactically, can you mess this up? You really can't mess it up, assuming everyone did a proper warm-up right before the time trial. You get on your bike, you have good legs or you don't have good legs. When it's all said and done on stage 4, Remco Evenepoel put on a spectacular display. Jonas Vingegaard went second on the stage, 20 seconds off of Remco Evenepoel. More importantly, Jorgensen, the American rider, went third on the stage in front of Tadej Pogačar. That lost a ton of time. I mean, we're talking about 45 seconds, give or take, for Tadej Pogačar lost on that individual time trial. So when it's all said and done, Jonas Vingegaard is 20 seconds up on Tadej Pogačar and 20 seconds down there on Remco Evenepoel, more or less. I don't remember the exact time, but I'm pretty close. We go into stage 5. Nothing you could do on stage 5 if you're Visma Lease Bike, so they raced it tactically sound. Now we go into the first mountain stage. The first of 3 short mountain stages of the 25 Dauphiné. And what happens? Well, UAE team members are driving it on the front because there's a break up the road and Romain Bardet's in that break at 2 minutes and 15 seconds. This tells you the MO right here. If you're Visma Lease Bike, don't be a knucklehead. The MO is already set from UAE team members, and it was set after stage 4, guys. If you're the director sportif for Visma Lease Bike, after stage 4, you know what's going to happen on stage 6, because after stage 4, Tadej Pogačar got devastated and finished 4th on stage 4 and lost a ton of time. So UAE only have one tactic to play because they don't have other super riders here. They don't have Yates. They don't have Almeida here. He's off doing Switzerland. They don't have all of their main big-time hitters. It's Tadej Pogačar, and that's it. That's the only rider they have. And how do I know that? Because I remember on stage 1, Tadej Pogačar had to cover all of the attacks on stage 1. And now on stage 6, you know Tadej Pogačar wants revenge for that stage 4. If you didn't know it after stage 4, you know it in the middle of the stage when the cameras come on proper, because UAE team members are driving it on the front, holding Romain Bardet's group at a doable level to bring back. So it's easy peasy, nice and squeezy on this stage if you want to understand tactics. UAE team members are going to drill it all day. They're going to launch Tadej Pogačar on the final 2 climbs. Now, curious enough, if you're looking at the final 2 climbs and you see it's under 10 kilometers, 2 climbs under 10 kilometers with a fall section in the middle of about 3 kilometers. If you're looking at that right and you're Jonas Vingegaard and you're already ahead of Tadej Pogačar, you're behind Remco Evenepoel, but you're ahead of Tadej Pogačar, UAE team members are on the front. We're coming into the 3rd climb with about 45 kilometers to go, and just before that, Visma Lease Bike start drilling their guys on the front. UAE team members are already on the front. They're already using up their team. They're already having to do a lot of work to control about an 8-rider break up the road with Romain Bardet in there. Why would you put your teammates on the front if you're Visma Lease Bike? Okay, what they're thinking is they thought they saw a bad day of the individual time trial from Tadej Pogačar. They want to see if his legs are going to blow up. But you don't need to make it any faster. His team's already making it as fast as it needs to go. Instead, we come into the 3rd climb to go with just under 45 kilometers to go. Visma Lease Bike's drilling it. They start attacking with Sepp Kuss. They start attacking with Jorgensen. And then, of course, Tim Wellens comes back in the picture. He sets some tempo for UAE team members. And then Tadej Pogačar setting a nice move. But why did you need to make it harder? Why did you have to hurt the legs of Sepp Kuss and Jorgensen on the first mountain stage before we get into the last 9 kilometers? What's important about the last 9 kilometers is what you guys are asking me, and the same thing what the other director sportifs at Visma Lease Bike are asking me at this moment. The last 9 kilometers comes with 2 climbs. As in the middle, I told you, it's a false flat of about 3 kilometers. If you can come into that first climb with Jorgensen, Sepp Kuss, Ben Toulet, and Jonas on fairly good legs, because they weren't attacking 45 kilometers out on the climb before. So you come into the 9 kilometers, they got to make it over 2.5 kilometers. A stick at 2.5 kilometers. Both climbs are right around 8 and 9%, so both climbs are stick, but they're short climbs with the flatter section in the middle. So again, what does the flat section mean? Tadej Pogačar, you know he's going to launch it going up the first climb. He wants revenge for stage 4. I've already told that, and we've seen his team ride in the front. Now we have Tim Wellens on the front after he got control again, after the attacks from Sepp Kuss and from Jorgensen, and then he slows the group down, brings back Sivakov, brings back Jonathan Narvaez, and Sivakov brings it into the climb. Jonathan Narvaez starts lighting everyone up, and it blows apart. Tadej Pogačar throws in a vicious attack with about 1.5 kilometers to go to the top of the first climb of the 2 that are coming. Now, if you go back to that third climb to go, you didn't use Jorgensen, you didn't use Sepp Kuss. The climb was a little bit steadier and slower. As the pace is slower, the reserves on all riders drop at closer to equal. Nobody drops as slow as Tadej Pogačar, so his gas tank is always high. So you want to keep your other guys, your super domestiques and Jonas Vingegaard's level, dropping as slow as it possibly can. So when you come into 9 kilometers to go and you hit the first of the last 2 climbs and Tadej Pogačar's got his team on the front, he's lighting everyone up after Narvaez gets done off the front, and then he drops Jonas Vingegaard. If the climb before had been a little bit slower, possibly Jonas Vingegaard can follow Tadej Pogačar. Okay. Now afterwards, we know he can't. We know, of course, Remco Evenepoel got blown up. We know that Tadej Pogačar blows up Jonas. But let's say Jonas could stay just for that 1 kilometer because they did not make the racing harder on 45 kilometers to go with 3 climbs to go. Let's say they went a little bit easier in there. Let's say UAE team members didn't have great legs going up that climb. Everyone's reserve, Jonas Vingegaard specifically, didn't drop below Tadej Pogačar. You come into the last start of the 9 kilometers and we're hitting that climb. Now all of a sudden Jonas has to survive the last 1.5 kilometers on Tadej Pogačar's wheel up the first part of that climb. Then they crest that KOM. They make the left turn at the top. It's a false flat. Now, we can assume Jorgensen, Ben Toulet, Sepp Kuss would get dropped on that same first part of the climb there with 2.5 kilometer section where it's steep. But now if you go to the top and Jonas was to survive that 1 kilometer section attack from Tadej Pogačar, he makes the left turn, it's a false flat. Tadej Pogačar is not going to drop Jonas Vingegaard on a 3-4% false flat section before you get into the last 2.5-3 kilometers of the stage. So that means Tadej Pogačar has to pull fast enough to keep the other 3 Visma bike riders and the other competition back there, because maybe Remco Evenepoel has a little bit better legs because you didn't drill it up the third to go climb. So maybe the 3 Visma bike riders are sitting on Remco Evenepoel that's trying to bring back Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar while they're getting a free ride. Tadej Pogačar has to decide to either go 100% with Jonas Vingegaard on his wheel, who's still 20 seconds up on him at the general classification. You do not have to drop Tadej Pogačar if you're Jonas Vingegaard. So Tadej Pogačar sitting second wheel, free and clear, no reason to pull. And he could have his teammate sitting on the wheel back there of Remco Evenepoel. Probably wouldn't have been Remco Evenepoel that we know later, but let's call it maybe Lipovitz instead. So they're sitting on them. Tadej Pogačar has to pull either 100% with Jonas sitting on, coming in the last 2.5 kilometer real stick of the finish of that stage 6. Then all of a sudden Tadej Pogačar's gas tank drops a little bit more than Jonas. Now they're a little bit more even starting the last 2.5 kilometers of that stage 6, and possibly, probably not likely, but possibly, slim chance, I'm saying there's a chance, Jonas Vingegaard stays on the wheel, follows Tadej Pogačar up to the finish of that stage. Maybe he gets beat by Tadej Pogačar, maybe he loses a few more seconds, maybe Jonas Vingegaard's wearing the race leader's yellow jersey after stage 6 because they raced it tactically smart instead of being knuckleheads. Instead, their whole team blew up. Tadej Pogačar dropped everyone, soloed to the finish of the stage, and put over a minute into Jonas Vingegaard, who had problems just holding off Lipovitz back there. That was 20 seconds behind Jonas Vingegaard after stage 6. So nightmare tactics so far in stage 1 and so far on stage 6 of Dauphiné. Now we go into stage 7. Remember, it was the one everyone was sitting on the Chesterfield all excited to watch because it was the Col de Madeleine. It was the Col de la Coiffure, and then they finish it up on a monster climb to finish 130 kilometer stage. What happens there? We go up, when the cameras come on proper, they did a terrible job with the cameras. First off, I was doing the bike race at the Cascade Cycling Classic, but the cameras came on so late up cold to the Qual Fair that we barely got to see the action. But we did get to see that Sepp Kuss was up the road from Visma bike, and we did get to see that Jorgensen was driving the front up the Col de la Qual Fair. I told you guys briefly on the butterfly effect after that stage was all done, that when I covered it on stage 8, when I went back to stage 7, that Jorgensen should have never been on the front. You can never have your super domestique on the front if you're Jonas Vingegaard on the penultimate climb, unless you know for sure you can drop Tadej Pogačar there. Otherwise, the deeper you get into a stage, the better the chances are of dropping someone of quality. In other words, chances of dropping Tadej Pogačar on the penultimate climb instead of the final climb is highly unlikely, especially when we saw on the stage before, just stage 6, the day before, Tadej Pogačar lit everyone up with a nuclear bomb and blew this race apart. So now you're going to use Jorgensen. No, you use Jorgensen or Sepp Kuss to go up the road and put pressure on UAE Team Emirates, or you keep Jorgensen sitting fresh as he possibly can to go into the last climb, so that if Tadej Pogačar lights you up, possibly Tadej Pogačar, which we know is going to light you up, and possibly Jonas could have Jorgensen to do one 500-meter pull back there with him on this wheel and can hold the gap a little bit closer to Tadej Pogačar, and then Jonas Vingegaard could possibly close the gap up to Tadej Pogačar. I don't see it happening, but it could happen, and if you're going to lose, you might as well lose the right way instead of looking like a bunch of knuckleheads. Instead, stage 7 was a knucklehead move tactically from Visma bike again. That's 3 stages out of 8, and to be clear, guys, there's only 4 stages that Visma bike can control, and realistically, there should have been only 6, 7, and 8 that Visma bike were interested in trying to control if they had the race leader's jersey after stage 4, but instead they try to control stage 1, 2, and that was a knucklehead move. Now we go into stage 8. Well, what are you going to do in stage 8? Jorgensen's already lost time. He's used his legs up all over. Sepp Kuss has already lost time, used his legs up all over. Ben Toulette's used his legs multiple times since stage 1, all the way coming into stage 8. So all the super domestiques are used up. They have no energy left. Jonas is not on the same level of Tadej Pogačar, and we go into the final climb, and Tadej Pogačar just has to follow wheels all the way up the final climb into the last 5 kilometers of that stage when it's summited. And we see, of course, Tadej Pogačar did exactly what he needed to do tactically. Just follow Jonas, save my legs, and don't use any energy because I got the Tour de France coming up on 3 weeks' time, and it's going to be the 25 Tour de France. So Tadej Pogačar was in reserve mode already on stage 8, where Jonas Vingegaard afterwards, of course, is asked by one of the reporters, and this reporter's a knucklehead, because he said to Jonas Vingegaard after the stage where Jonas Vingegaard finished second on the general classification to Tadej Pogačar, third went to Lipovitz, not even Remco Evenepoel, he finished 4th overall. But the journalist asked Jonas Vingegaard if you're underrated going into the Tour de France. No, Jonas Vingegaard is not underrated. So when we look again, and the director sportifs are sitting there from Visma bike, I'm saying we screwed up massively on stages 1, stage 6, stage 7. But the good thing is, no, Jonas Vingegaard is not underrated. He finished second at Dauphiné. He says in his interview, Jonas Vingegaard that is, that they have to just look after themselves, and he believes he can get better for the 25 Tour de France. I believe you could get better in 3 weeks. There's no doubt about that, and his level could come up closer to Tadej Pogačar. But if they keep racing tactically the way that they did at Dauphiné on those stages that I already highlighted, well, they're going to for sure lose the Tour de France, because if Tadej Pogačar has this kind of form and Jonas Vingegaard is just a small percentage behind Tadej Pogačar, let me point something out. UAE Team Emirates raced everything tactically intelligent from stage 1. They didn't mess up. They did everything correct. And when we break it all down for Tadej Pogačar, the only stage that the Slovenian raced hard here at Dauphiné was stage 6. The only stage that he put time into Jonas Vingegaard. Stage 7, stage 8, he was riding on cruise control up over the climb. So when he gets done and gets back to his home or gets up to altitude training camp and starts his training, he doesn't even need much rest and recovery after leaving Dauphiné, because he never stuck his neck out on the line other than on stage 6, and you can say stage 4, the individual time trial, but 17.4 kilometers. So Tadej Pogačar, if I'm Visma bike and you're talking about Tadej Pogačar, you know that he has some weakness in the individual time trial, possibly, or possibly he just had a bad day. But Jonas Vingegaard has to get better, and Viz bike tactics have to get better. And Jonas, I told you last year after stage 9, the gravelstone sections, when Remco Evenepoel was saying you didn't have big balls, and I said tactically you were the most brilliant on stage 9 of the gravelstones on the Tour de France. And then you go into stage 1 and blow it all apart. You blow your teammates all apart on the mountain stages here at Dauphiné. Ridiculous tactics. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for the next Beyond the Coverage real soon.